Luke had never been to the countryside before. The city was all he had ever known, the tall buildings, honking cars, and crowded streets. But something inside him had been calling for a change, a real adventure, a place where life moved slower and work meant something you could see with your own hands. That's why he had accepted the summer job at Mr. Thompson's ranch, even though he didn't know what to expect. The journey to the ranch had been long. Luke rode in the back of an old pickup truck, bouncing over dusty roads, while the horizon stretched endlessly with golden fields and distant hills. He looked out the window and felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The city was behind him now, replaced by open skies and a silence that was almost magical. He imagined horses grazing, cows wandering slowly, and the smell of fresh hay. But he also wondered, could he really do this? Could he survive life on a ranch, away from the comforts he had always known? As the truck turned down a narrow dirt path, a massive ranch house came into view. It was built of weathered wood, sturdy and timeless, with a wide porch that overlooked rolling pastures. Beyond that, barns and stables stood in neat rows, and in the distance, he could see the animals moving slowly across the fields. The air smelled of earth and grass, and the sound of birds mixed with the faint lowing of cattle. Luke felt a small thrill run through him. This was nothing like the city. This was real life. The truck stopped, and Luke hopped out, stretching his legs. He carried only a small bag with his clothes and a few personal items, but he also had a small toolkit he had been told to bring. He looked around nervously, feeling slightly out of place. The ranch hands moved efficiently, tending to chores without saying much. Their boots kicked up dust as they walked across the yard, and Luke felt like he had stepped into a different world altogether. Just as he was taking in the scene, a tall man appeared from the porch. His hat was pulled low, and his eyes narrowed sharply as they landed on Luke. The man's posture was straight and firm, radiating authority and experience. He was Mr. Thompson, the rancher who owned the entire property. Luke had heard stories about him, how he had run this ranch for decades, how he expected hard work and honesty, and how he rarely tolerated laziness or excuses. Mr. Thompson walked toward him slowly, eyes still narrowed. "Where's your thing, boy?" he asked in a low voice that seemed to carry the weight of the ranch itself. Luke blinked, confused. He looked down at his bag, then at his hands. My thing?" he repeated uncertainly. The rancher's expression didn't change. "Your thing. You know, the tools you're supposed to have. You can't work without it." Realization dawned on Luke. The tools. He had nearly forgotten. He fumbled through his bag, pulling out the small kit he had brought. It wasn't much, just a few basic items, but it was all he had. Mr. Thompson studied the kit carefully, tapping a finger on each item, then nodded slowly. "Not much, but it'll do. Don't lose it, and don't come back without it." Luke swallowed hard. He wanted to impress Mr. Thompson, to show that he could handle this job, but the rancher's sharp gaze made him feel small and inexperienced. He tried to stand taller, straighten his shoulders, and offer a confident smile, but the nervousness lingered. A few of the ranch hands chuckled quietly, but Emily, a young woman leaning against a fence nearby, simply smiled at him. She was clearly a part of the ranch, comfortable and confident in her surroundings. Luke felt a spark of hope. If she could manage all this, maybe he could too. Mr. Thompson didn't wait long. "Come on, I'll show you where you'll be working. Keep up and don't get in the way." He turned and started walking toward the barns. Luke hurried to follow, careful not to trip over the uneven ground. The sun was beginning to set, painting the fields in shades of orange and gold. It was breathtaking, but Luke barely had time to admire it. He had work to do, and he didn't want to look like a fool. The first stop was the stables. Horses of all sizes moved gracefully in their pens, snorting softly and shifting their hooves. Luke had never been this close to such large animals. He felt a mixture of awe and fear. Emily was there too, brushing one of the horses with careful strokes. She looked up and gave him a friendly nod. "Don't worry," she said. "They won't bite, usually. You just need to be calm." Luke nodded, trying to mimic her confidence. He approached a smaller horse, gently touching its neck. The animal flicked its ears but remained calm. A sense of relief washed over him. Maybe he could do this, he thought. Maybe he could belong here. Mr. Thompson handed him a few simple chores to start with, cleaning the stalls, filling water troughs, and feeding the horses. Luke worked carefully, determined not to mess up. His hands got dirty and sweat began to form on his forehead, but there was something satisfying about it. This was hard work, real work, and for the first time in a long while, he felt useful. As night fell, the ranch took on a different character. The setting sun cast long shadows across the fields, and the barn lanterns glowed warmly. Luke stood by the fence for a moment, looking out at the open land. He could hear the soft sounds of animals settling in for the night, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the faint laughter of the ranch hands. He realized that this place, so different from the city, had a rhythm of its own, one that felt alive and full of possibilities. Emily joined him, leaning on the fence. "You're doing okay," she said softly. "It's only your first day, and you haven't fallen off a horse yet." "That's a win." Luke laughed, feeling a little embarrassed but grateful for her kindness. "Thanks. I'm worried I'll mess up," he admitted. "You'll learn," she said confidently. "Everyone does. Just stick with it and don't be afraid to ask for help. That's how you survive out here." Luke nodded, feeling a mix of relief and determination. He was ready to face whatever challenges the ranch would throw at him. He might be new, inexperienced, and uncertain, but he also had curiosity, courage, and a willingness to learn. That night, as he lay in the small cabin assigned to him, Luke thought about the day. The confusion, the hard work, the beauty of the land, and Emily's encouraging words all swirled in his mind. He realized that this summer was not just a job. It was the start of something different, something real. He had left behind the city's noise and distractions, stepping into a world where every day would test him, teach him, and shape him. He fell asleep to the sounds of the ranch, the gentle lowing of cattle, the rustle of horses in their stalls, and the whispering wind through the trees. Luke didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of excitement he hadn't felt before. The ranch, with its wide-open fields, hard-working people, and unexpected friendships, had begun to feel like home. Luke woke up the next morning to the soft golden light of sunrise spilling through the small window of his cabin. The air smelled fresh and earthy, carrying hints of hay and morning dew. Outside, he could hear the low murmur of cattle and the rhythmic clopping of horses' hooves as the ranch came alive for another busy day. For a moment he paused, simply listening, letting the sounds sink in. This was so different from the constant noise of the city, the honking cars, shouting street vendors, and crowded sidewalks. Here, everything moved slower, calmer, and somehow more meaningful. After quickly getting ready, Luke stepped outside and was greeted by the sight of Emily already at work. She was guiding a young foal through its morning exercises, her hands steady and movements confident. Luke watched quietly for a moment, admiring her ease and grace. She seemed to belong here in a way he hadn't yet felt he could. Emily noticed him and waved. "Morning, Luke! Ready for day 2?" she called. Her smile was warm, encouraging, and it made Luke feel slightly less nervous. "Morning," he replied, forcing a grin. "I think so." Mr. Thompson appeared behind them, arms crossed. His gaze swept over Luke with the same sharp scrutiny as the day before. "You're on the north pastures today," he said. "Watch the fences, feed the cattle, and make sure the water troughs are full. And keep an eye on the young horses. Don't let anything get out of place." Luke nodded, trying to absorb all the instructions. His heart raced a little, but he was determined to prove himself. He grabbed the necessary tools from his small kit and followed Emily toward the pastures. Walking beside her, Luke tried to imitate her movements as she handled the horses with practiced skill. Emily patiently explained things step by step. "Always keep calm," she said. "They can sense fear, and it makes them nervous. Speak softly, move slowly. You'll see, it works every time." Luke tried to do as she suggested. At first, he was clumsy. He fumbled with the halter, stumbled over a bucket, and even startled one of the smaller horses. Emily chuckled softly. "It's okay," she reassured him. "Everyone starts somewhere. You just need to keep practicing. Remember, patience is everything." As the morning went on, Luke found himself learning quickly. He could feel the difference between a nervous horse and a calm one. He began to notice little details: the flick of an ear, the shifting weight, the soft snort of a relaxed animal. He still made mistakes, of course, but he started to gain confidence. Emily encouraged him at every step, correcting gently, praising even the smallest progress. By mid-morning, they had moved on to checking the fences. Luke carried the hammer and nails while Emily pointed out weak spots and loose boards. He worked carefully, hammering each nail with precision, determined not to let the rancher or Emily down. Emily noticed his effort and smiled. "Not bad for your first full day out here," she said. "You're picking it up faster than I expected." Luke felt a rush of pride. He had worried so much about failing, but hearing Emily say that gave him a sense of accomplishment. For the first time, he truly felt that he might belong here, that he could handle this life, at least for now. During a short break, they sat under the shade of a large oak tree, sipping water and watching the cattle graze peacefully. Luke noticed how relaxed Emily was, even in the heat of the day. She seemed to understand the land and the animals in a way that went beyond skill. It was as if she was part of the rhythm of the ranch. "Do you always work this much?" Luke asked, trying to catch his breath. Emily laughed softly. "It's not really work when you love it. You learn to enjoy it even when it's hard. You start noticing small things. The way the sun hits the fields, the smell of fresh hay, the sound of a horse's hooves on the dirt. It grows on you." Luke nodded, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He had never thought of work like that. In the city, work was stressful and draining. Here it felt alive and rewarding. After the break, Mr. Thompson called out to them from the far end of the pasture. "Luke, Emily, a few of the younger calves have wandered close to the stream. Make sure they don't get into trouble." Luke felt a jolt of excitement and nervousness. This was his first real challenge of the day. He followed Emily quickly, keeping his eyes on the calves. They were playful and curious, their small hooves splashing in the shallow water. Luke carefully guided them back toward the main pasture, using gentle nudges and soft words, just as Emily had taught him. "You're getting the hang of this," Emily said, smiling at his progress. "See? You can do it." Luke couldn't help but smile back. It felt good to succeed, to handle something real and important. He realized that every small task on the ranch mattered. Every fence mended, every horse guided, every calf kept safe. He could feel himself growing stronger, more capable, and more confident with each passing hour. By late afternoon, they moved to repairing a section of the barn that had been damaged in a recent storm. Luke was given a larger role this time, holding boards and handing nails to Emily as she worked on the frame. They fell into a rhythm, their movements coordinated, their conversation light and easy. They shared small stories about their lives. Emily talked about growing up on the ranch, the pride she felt in helping care for the land and animals. Luke shared a little about his life in the city, about how different this felt, and how much he was learning. There was a comfortable silence that fell between them at times, filled with the sound of hammering, the soft rustle of hay, and the occasional call of a distant bird. Luke found that he looked forward to these moments with Emily, not just for the help and guidance she provided, but for the sense of companionship. It was new, exciting, and quietly comforting. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Mr. Thompson walked over to check their progress. He nodded approvingly. "Good work today," he said gruffly. "You're learning fast. Keep this up, and you might just survive the summer without embarrassing yourself." Luke laughed, feeling a mix of pride and relief. He knew he still had a lot to learn, but the day had given him confidence. He was starting to understand the rhythm of the ranch, the value of patience, and the satisfaction of honest work. Emily and Luke walked back toward the barn, carrying their tools. The sky was now a deep purple, and the first stars were beginning to appear. Luke noticed how calm and beautiful the ranch looked under the twilight. He felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. As they reached the barn, Emily nudged him gently. "See? You did fine. Tomorrow will be even better." Luke nodded, smiling. "Thanks for showing me the ropes. I don't think I could have done this without you." Emily smiled back, a small warmth in her eyes. "That's what I'm here for. Everyone needs someone to guide them at first. Just don't give up." That night, Luke lay in his cabin again, reflecting on the day. He had worked hard, learned new skills, and even managed to make a small connection with Emily. The ranch no longer felt intimidating. It felt challenging, yes, but also full of possibilities. He could see himself growing stronger, learning more, and maybe even finding a place he could call home. He closed his eyes, listening to the gentle sounds of the ranch, the soft breathing of the horses, the distant lowing of cows, and the whispering wind through the trees. For the first time, he felt like he was part of something bigger, something meaningful. The city was far behind him, and the wide open fields, hard work, and new friendships were opening a whole new world. Luke drifted to sleep with a sense of excitement and anticipation for the days ahead. He knew that the challenges would only get harder, but he also knew that he had already taken the first step toward becoming someone capable, confident, and part of this world. And most importantly, he had begun to form a bond with someone, Emily, who could turn this summer into something unforgettable. The next morning began like any other, with the sun rising slowly over the vast fields of the ranch, painting everything in golden light. Luke awoke with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had grown more comfortable with the daily routines, yet he also knew that ranch life was unpredictable. There were always challenges waiting, some small, some large, and today would prove to be the first big test of his skills. After breakfast, Luke and Emily were called over by Mr. Thompson. His face looked serious, a rare sight, and his arms were crossed over his chest. "A few of the younger calves wandered close to the stream overnight," he said. "They need to be brought back safely. Make sure none of them get hurt. You two are going to work together on this." Luke felt a mix of excitement and fear. He had never had to handle something like this before. Emily noticed his hesitation and gave him a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. We'll do it together. You've learned a lot already. Just stay calm and follow my lead." The two of them set off toward the stream, walking through fields dotted with wildflowers. The morning air was fresh and cool, carrying the scent of grass and earth. Luke noticed how easily Emily moved, her confidence and experience guiding every step. He tried to match her pace, reminding himself not to rush, not to panic. When they reached the stream, the calves were nowhere to be seen at first. Then Luke spotted a few small brown shapes near a clump of reeds, playfully nudging each other and stepping into the shallow water. The calves were curious and adventurous, but also vulnerable. Luke's heart raced. "How do we get them back without scaring them?" he asked quietly. Emily knelt down slightly, speaking softly. "They respond to calm voices. Don't shout. Move slowly. Make them feel safe." Luke nodded and took a deep breath. He crouched down and extended his hand toward the nearest calf, trying to imitate Emily's calm posture. The calf froze, then took a hesitant step forward. Luke's confidence grew a little. "It's working," he whispered. Together, they slowly guided the calves toward the pasture, keeping them away from the deeper parts of the stream. Luke learned to anticipate their movements, to gently block paths without startling them, and to reward them with soft words when they followed his guidance. Emily praised him quietly, her voice filled with warmth. "You're doing great, Luke. Just keep going. You've got this." As they neared the pasture, one calf suddenly bolted in the opposite direction, toward a steep incline. Luke panicked for a moment but remembered Emily's advice. He ran alongside the calf, moving carefully, speaking softly. Emily was right behind him, helping to block the calf's path and steer it back toward safety. By the time the last calf safely returned to the pasture, Luke was out of breath, but filled with pride. He had faced his first real challenge on the ranch and had succeeded. Emily smiled at him, her eyes sparkling. "See? I knew you could do it. You handled that perfectly." Luke felt a surge of happiness. Not only had he learned how to manage the calves, but he had also earned Emily's trust. He realized that this was more than just a summer job. It was a chance to grow, to prove himself, and to become part of something meaningful. After the excitement, they took a short break under the shade of a large oak tree. Luke drank water and tried to calm his racing heart. Emily handed him a small snack, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun rise higher in the sky. "You did more than just help today," Emily said softly. "You stayed calm when things got tricky. That's the most important thing on a ranch. Skills are important, yes, but keeping your head when something goes wrong, that's what matters." Luke nodded, feeling a sense of maturity he hadn't experienced before. He was starting to see that ranch life was teaching him lessons that went beyond physical work. It was teaching him patience, responsibility, and the value of staying calm under pressure. By afternoon, the ranch settled into its usual rhythm. Luke and Emily worked together on several small tasks: mending fences, checking water troughs, and helping with feeding. Each task seemed easier now, though still demanding. Luke felt a sense of accomplishment with every completed chore. Emily's presence continued to guide him, and their teamwork grew stronger. During a quiet moment, Emily shared a little more about herself. "I grew up here," she said. "The ranch has always been part of my life. My parents taught me to respect the land and the animals. I guess that's why I'm so comfortable here. But it's not always easy. Every day brings something new. Sometimes challenges, sometimes surprises." Luke listened intently, fascinated. He realized how much he still had to learn, not just about ranch work, but about understanding the land, the animals, and the people who lived there. He shared a little about his city life, about how he had always felt disconnected, and how this summer was giving him something he had never experienced before: purpose. As the sun began to lower in the sky, a sudden wind picked up, rustling the grass and leaves. Luke noticed some of the older cows beginning to move nervously. Emily quickly pointed to a group of calves wandering toward a rocky area. "We need to guide them back before it gets dark," she said. Luke nodded, feeling a mixture of nerves and determination. This was another test, another chance to prove himself. He and Emily worked together seamlessly, anticipating the calves' movements and gently steering them back to safety. Luke felt his confidence growing with each successful effort. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, all the animals were safe, the pastures secure, and the fences repaired. Luke was exhausted but exhilarated. He had faced challenges, learned new skills, and discovered a strength within himself he hadn't known existed. Mr. Thompson approached as they finished their work. "Good job today," he said, his voice serious but approving. "You handled the calves well. Not many newcomers can do that on their first try. Luke felt a wave of pride. This acknowledgement from the rancher meant a lot. It was proof that he was learning, that he could handle responsibility, and that he was beginning to belong here. As they walked back toward the barn, Emily nudged him gently. "See? You're more capable than you think. This is just the beginning. There will be more challenges, but I know you can handle them." Luke smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and admiration for Emily. She had been patient, supportive, and encouraging, guiding him through every step of the day. Without her, he knew he might have been overwhelmed. That night, Luke lay in his cabin once again, reflecting on the day. He thought about the calves, the challenges, and the lessons he had learned. He felt a sense of accomplishment and growth, realizing that this summer was shaping him in ways he had never imagined. The ranch had become more than a place to work. It had become a place where he was discovering himself, where he was forming connections, and where he was learning the true meaning of patience, teamwork, and trust. As he drifted off to sleep, Luke knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. He felt ready, confident, and excited to face whatever came next. For the first time in his life, he felt a deep connection, not just to the ranch and its animals, but also to the people who made it a home, especially Emily. The stars twinkled outside his window, the gentle night sounds of the ranch surrounding him. Luke felt a sense of peace and anticipation. He had faced his first real test, and he had succeeded. The future was full of possibilities, and he was ready to embrace every moment. The next morning, the ranch was bathed in soft golden sunlight, and Luke felt a sense of comfort in the familiar sounds of the animals and the gentle rustling of the wind across the fields. Over the past few days, he had grown more confident in his work, and his hands now knew how to handle tools, horses, and livestock with more ease. But today, he noticed something different in himself, a feeling of belonging, a sense that he was becoming part of this place, and perhaps even part of something larger than himself. Emily was already up and moving, feeding the horses and checking the fences. When she saw Luke approaching, she smiled warmly. "Good morning? Ready to start another day?" she asked. Luke nodded, returning the smile. "Morning. Yes, I think I'm getting the hang of it now." As they walked through the pastures together, Luke noticed how Emily's presence made even the hardest tasks feel lighter. She moved with confidence and grace, her knowledge of the ranch evident in every step she took. She explained things to him patiently, teaching him the subtleties of ranch life, the way a horse's ears can show its mood, how to spot when a cow might be sick, and how to read the land for signs of trouble. Luke listened carefully, eager to learn from her experience. By mid-morning, they had finished feeding and checking on the animals, and Emily suggested they repair a section of the barn that had become weak over time. Luke carried the boards and nails while Emily measured and guided the repairs. Their teamwork felt natural now, almost effortless. As they worked side by side, Luke felt a connection growing between them, not just as friends or co-workers, but as people who understood and relied on each other. During a short break, they sat on the barn steps, drinking water and watching the sun climb higher in the sky. Luke realized he had learned more than just ranch skills. He was learning patience, responsibility, and the value of working with someone you trust. "You're really improving, Luke," Emily said, her eyes bright with encouragement. "You've got a good feel for the animals and the land. I knew you could do it." Luke felt a warmth in his chest. "Thanks, Emily. I couldn't have done it without you. You've taught me so much already." Emily laughed softly. "You're welcome. And don't worry, you'll keep learning every day. That's part of ranch life. There's always something new to figure out." The afternoon brought another task, moving hay bales to the far end of the pasture. Luke and Emily worked together, lifting, carrying, and stacking, their hands covered in dust and sweat. It was hard work, but Luke felt a sense of satisfaction with each bale they moved. The physical labor gave him a strange joy, a feeling of accomplishment that he had never experienced in the city. As they worked, Luke began to notice more subtle things about Emily. The way she laughed when a bale almost slipped, the gentle way she corrected his grip, the small, encouraging nods when he did something right. He found himself looking forward to these moments, feeling a connection that went beyond friendship. He realized he was developing feelings for her, feelings he hadn't expected, but now couldn't ignore. After finishing the hay, they took a moment to rest under the shade of a large oak tree. Luke leaned back against the trunk, feeling exhausted but content. Emily sat beside him, quietly watching the animals graze. "You know," she said softly, "it's not just about the work. It's about the land, the animals, and the people who care for them. That's what makes this place special." Luke nodded. "I'm starting to understand that. I've never felt anything like it before. It's hard work, yes, but it feels real, meaningful." Emily smiled, her eyes meeting his. "Exactly. And that's why I love it here. It's not easy, but it's honest. And people who work hard, who care, they make it even better." Luke felt a flutter in his chest. He realized that he didn't just admire Emily for her skills and confidence. He admired her for her kindness, her patience, and the way she made him feel capable. For the first time, he felt a connection that was deeper than friendship, a quiet bond that was growing stronger with every shared task and moment. As the day went on, Luke and Emily continued their work, moving fences, checking water troughs, and guiding the animals back to their enclosures. Luke found himself relying on her guidance more than ever. But he also noticed that he was becoming more independent. He anticipated the animals' movements, handled tools with more skill, and began to trust his own judgment. Emily noticed too, giving him approving smiles and quiet words of encouragement. By late afternoon, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the fields. Luke and Emily walked together toward the barn, their hands and clothes covered in dust, their faces flushed from the hard work. The ranch was quiet now. The animals settled for the evening, and the air was filled with the scent of grass, hay, and the faint smoke of a distant chimney. Emily nudged Luke gently. "You did really well today. You're learning fast, and it shows. I'm proud of you." Luke smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "Thanks, Emily. That means a lot coming from you. I feel like I'm finally starting to belong here." Emily smiled back, a softness in her eyes that made Luke's heart skip a beat. "You do belong here, Luke. You're part of the ranch now. And, I think, part of my world, too." Luke's chest tightened. He realized then that his feelings for Emily were real, deepening with each passing day. He admired her strength, her patience, and the gentle way she guided him. More than that, he felt a sense of comfort and happiness in her presence, a feeling he had never experienced before. As they reached the barn, Mr. Thompson walked by, observing them with a careful eye. He nodded slightly, a rare sign of approval. "Good work today, both of you," he said. "Keep it up. You're learning fast, and it shows." Luke felt a surge of pride. The rancher's approval was important. But even more important was the sense of accomplishment and growth he felt. He was becoming capable, confident, and part of a team that relied on each other. That evening, as the stars began to appear in the clear night sky, Luke and Emily sat outside the barn for a while, sharing quiet conversation and laughter. Luke found himself opening up to her in ways he had never done with anyone before. He talked about his life in the city, his dreams, and the reasons he had come to the ranch. Emily listened attentively, sharing her own stories and dreams in return. There was a comfort in their companionship, a feeling of trust and understanding that grew stronger with each passing day. Luke realized that this bond, this quiet connection, was something special. He admired Emily not just for her skills or confidence, but for the warmth, kindness, and encouragement she brought into his life. As they finally walked back to their cabins, Luke felt a sense of peace and happiness. He had grown so much in just a few days. He was stronger, more confident, and more connected to the ranch and the people in it. And most importantly, he had begun to form a bond with Emily, a bond that felt real, meaningful, and full of promise. That night, as Luke lay in bed, he reflected on the day. He had worked hard, learned new skills, and built a connection with someone he admired deeply. The ranch had become more than a place to work. It was becoming a place he could call home, a place where he belonged, and a place where love and friendship could grow. He drifted off to sleep with a sense of anticipation for the days ahead, excited to continue learning, growing, and exploring the possibilities that this summer at the ranch held. Luke knew that challenges would come, but with Emily by his side and with the skills he was developing, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The summer had flown by, faster than Luke could have imagined. Days that had once felt long and exhausting now seemed full of warmth, laughter, and a sense of purpose. He had grown stronger, more confident, and far more skilled than when he had first arrived. The ranch was no longer intimidating. It was familiar, comforting, and even exciting. Most importantly, it had become a place where he felt he truly belonged. Luke woke early, as he had every day, to the sound of birds chirping and cattle lowing in the distance. The sun was just beginning to rise, spilling golden light across the fields and painting the barns and pastures in a warm glow. He stretched and felt a quiet satisfaction. He knew that today would be his last official day of work before the summer came to an end. There was a bittersweet feeling in his chest. He was proud of all he had accomplished, but he knew he would miss the ranch, the animals, and the people he had grown so close to, especially Emily. Emily was already outside, tending to the horses and humming softly to herself. When she saw Luke, her face lit up in a warm smile. "Good morning, Luke. Ready for one last day?" she called. Luke smiled back, feeling a sense of contentment. "Morning. I can't believe how fast the summer went. But yes, let's make it a good day." Mr. Thompson appeared behind them, his arms crossed as always. He looked at Luke and nodded. "You've done well this summer, boy. You handled the calves, the fences, and the horses better than I expected. Keep it up today, and remember, you've earned your place here." Luke felt a surge of pride. Mr. Thompson's approval meant a lot, but even more than that, he felt proud of himself. He had learned so much, worked hard, and proven that he could handle life on a ranch. The morning passed quickly with chores that now felt familiar and manageable. Luke and Emily worked together seamlessly, guiding the animals, checking fences, and feeding the livestock. They moved with ease and confidence, their teamwork strengthened by weeks of shared experience. Luke noticed the small gestures between them, the way Emily would glance at him with encouragement, the way he instinctively helped her when lifting heavy objects. Their bond had grown deeper and stronger, shaped by shared challenges and successes. As the afternoon approached, Mr. Thompson called Luke aside. "I hear you've been doing well with the animals and the other ranch hands. You've earned the chance to take on a new responsibility, leading a small project to improve the barn storage." Luke's heart raced. This was a big opportunity, a way to show how much he had learned. He looked at Emily, who gave him an encouraging nod. "You can do it, Luke. I know you can." He spent the rest of the afternoon planning and carrying out the project, with Emily assisting when needed. Together, they organized tools, repaired old shelves, and created a system that would make barn work easier for everyone. Luke felt a deep sense of satisfaction seeing the results of his efforts, knowing that his contribution would have a lasting impact on the ranch. By evening, the work was done. The barn was clean, organized, and ready for the coming seasons. Luke stepped back to admire their efforts, his chest swelling with pride. Emily smiled at him, a mixture of admiration and fondness in her eyes. "You did an amazing job, Luke. I knew you could handle this. You've grown so much this summer." Luke felt a warmth in his chest, realizing that Emily's words meant more than just praise. They were acknowledgement of his journey, his hard work, and his growth. He had started the summer nervous, unsure, and inexperienced, but now he felt capable, confident, and part of something meaningful. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and purple, Luke and Emily walked together toward the ranch house. The air was filled with the soft sounds of the animals settling in for the night and the gentle whisper of the evening breeze. Emily glanced at him, her eyes soft. "I'm really glad you came this summer, Luke. You've changed so much, and I think you're more than just someone who works here now. You're part of the ranch, part of our lives." Luke felt his heart skip a beat. "I feel the same way, Emily. I never imagined I could feel at home somewhere like this, or that I could find someone I care about so much. This summer, it's been more than I ever hoped for." Emily smiled, and for a moment they walked in silence, simply enjoying the quiet beauty of the evening. Luke realized that the bond they had formed was genuine, built on trust, shared experience, and mutual respect. It was a connection that went beyond friendship, a bond that had grown quietly, steadily, and meaningfully throughout the summer. Later, Mr. Thompson approached, his usual serious expression softened by a small smile. "Well, Luke, I guess it's official. You've proven yourself capable. If you want, you can stay on the ranch permanently. You've earned your place here." Luke felt a rush of emotion. He had never expected this. The ranch, which had once felt so foreign and intimidating, now felt like home. And with Emily by his side, he knew that staying wasn't just about work. It was about being part of a life, a place, and a community he had come to love. "I'd like that," Luke said sincerely. "I want to stay." Emily's eyes lit up, and she reached out to gently squeeze his hand. "I'm glad," she said softly. "We'll make it even better together." That night, the ranch was calm and quiet, the stars twinkling brightly in the clear sky. Luke and Emily sat outside the barn for a while, reflecting on the summer and sharing their hopes for the future. Luke realized how much he had grown, not just in skill, but in confidence, patience, and understanding. He had learned the value of hard work, trust, and connection, and he had discovered a place where he truly belonged. He also realized that Emily had become more than just a mentor or a friend. She had become someone he cared for deeply. Their bond had grown through shared challenges, laughter, and quiet moments of understanding. It was a connection that promised more than just a summer friendship. It was a beginning. As the night deepened, Luke and Emily walked back toward their cabins, hands brushing lightly, hearts full of warmth and hope. Luke felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had found something meaningful, a place and a person who made him feel at home. Before heading inside, Mr. Thompson called out with a teasing grin, "Where's your thing, boy?" Luke laughed, remembering his first day on the ranch when he had fumbled with his small kit of tools. This time, though, he held his head high, feeling confident and capable. "Right here," he said with a smile, holding up his toolkit and glancing at Emily. Emily laughed softly, and Luke felt a sense of joy and belonging that he had never known before. The ranch, the animals, the work, and the people had all become part of him. And most importantly, Emily was by his side, their bond strong, steady, and full of promise. That summer had started as an adventure, a chance to escape the city and try something new. It had grown into a journey of growth, learning, friendship, and love. Luke had discovered his strength, his confidence, and a sense of purpose. He had also found a connection with Emily, a quiet, meaningful bond that would last far beyond the summer. As Luke lay in his cabin that night, listening to the gentle sounds of the ranch, he felt a deep sense of contentment. The future was bright, filled with possibilities, and he knew that he had found a place where he truly belonged. The ranch had become more than a job or a summer adventure. It had become home, and Emily had become someone he could share it with. Luke closed his eyes, feeling gratitude, hope, and quiet excitement for the days to come. He had started as a nervous newcomer, unsure of himself and the work ahead. He had grown into a confident, capable young man, ready to embrace life on the ranch and the bond he had formed with Emily. The summer had changed him in ways he had never expected, and he knew that this was only the beginning of a life filled with hard work, love, and meaningful connections.